Bring on, 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 bring on.
Good night to Brooklyn. Well, here what we go take down the pace a little bit with this one, and then we go get on real bad. West Indian women, raise your hand. Hear this. Devastation and destruction from ever since time began has been inflicted time and again by man against fellow man. Yet man wouldn't learn from history. It makes him more violent, producing deadly weaponry with nothing but evil intent. So the war could never be over. Peace will never be seen, long as man in his quest for power keep destroying fellow human beings. Fellow human beings. I'm telling you, nobody, oh nobody, when you really think of it, nobody wins a war, because the agony of defeat will linger. Nations still hating one another, and superpowers, they're looking for more power. As long as violence and aggression still dwell in the hearts of man, brother, the war will go on. It cannot be won. No, 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 the war will go on. It cannot be won. Fallout from war is chaos, plenty agony, plenty pain. Economies left in shambles that may never rise up again. Collapse of the money system, disruption of foreign trade, people turning against their leaders for the blunders that they have made. Environmental pollution, radiation taking its course, and the thousands that die in battle. Oh, what a waste of human resource. Of course, look, I'm telling you, nobody, oh, nobody. But when you really look at it, nobody wins a war. The brutal clash of ideologies, carnage and social anarchy, and life reduced to pitiful dimensions. The falling back of progress and growth for entire generation. Sister, it cannot be won. The war will go on. No, 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 the war will go on. It cannot be won. Hear the music. War is just like a racket. It pays dividends for a few. But what does it profit the masses? I mean laymen like me and you. While the leaders playing their chess game, using the masses as pawn with political propaganda. The massacre still goes on. The soldiers, they never started, but they give their lives easily, while the leaders are in a safe place working out strategies. So you see, I know nobody, oh nobody, but when you really look at it, nobody wins a war. It has stayed the passage of history with the blood of the weak and the mighty. Great cultures vanish completely. Look, war can create and destroy political boundaries as it goes on. Brother, the war will go on. It cannot be won. No, 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 the war will go on. It cannot be won. The object of war is simple. Just conquer and take over. It doesn't matter how many people get wiped out in the massacre. The vanquished. The battle has to be won, but the conflict will never be over. Cause the agony lingers on. There'll always be more dictators, more Hitlers, more Saddam Hussein. And with the lunatics in power, it will just start all over again. And again, I know nobody, oh nobody. But when you really look at it, nobody wins a war. We need a spiritual revolution to stop this brutish aggression. For as peace in the world will always be out of our hands. As long as the quest for wealth and power still live in the hearts of man, sister, the war will go on. It cannot be won. No, 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 the war will go on. It cannot be won. The war will go on. War is just like a racket. It pays dividends for a few. But what does it profit the masses? I mean laymen like me and you. While the leaders playing their chess games, using the masses as pawn with political propaganda. The massacre still goes on. The soldiers, they never started, but they give their lives easily, while the leaders are in a safe place working out strategies. So you see, I know nobody, oh nobody. But when you really look at it, nobody wins a war. It has stayed the passage of history with the blood of the weak and the mighty. Great, great cultures vanish completely. Look, war can create and destroy political boundaries as it goes on. Brother, the war will go on. It cannot be won. No, 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 the war will go on. It cannot be won. The object of war is simple. Just conquer and take over. It doesn't matter how many people get wiped out in the massacre. The enemy must be vanquished. The battle has to be won. But the conflict will never be over. Cause the agony lingers on. There'll always be more dictators, more Hitlers, more Saddam Hussein. And with the lunatics in power, it will just start all over again. And again, I know nobody, oh nobody. But when you really look at it, nobody wins a war. We need a spiritual revolution to stop this brutish aggression. For as peace in the world will always be out of our hands. As long as the quest for wealth and power still live in the hearts of man, sister, the war will go on. It cannot be won. No, 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 the war will go on. It cannot be won. The war will go on. Peace in the world.
The war will go on.
We need a spiritual revolution.
The war will go on.
Lord, put a hand, save the children.
The war will go on.
Man fighting
What we
against man.
fighting for?
Yeah.
The war will go on. What we fighting for? The war will go on. What we fighting for?
I'm coming back.
Only war, war, and rumors of war. We can't take this no more.
Justice only reserved for the mighty.
All nations trying to make the best of what they've got to make a living. come and say, but how can we as small nations be expected to go on this way? Hey, with these set of warmongers, they satisfy their war hunger. For one reason or another, they messing up the world. These set of warmongers only fulfilling their war hunger, and they feel it makes them stronger. They messing up the world. Selah, Selah, Selah. United only among themselves, there's an exclusion of small nations. Who only have a voice to say yes to their whims, their fancies, and their notions. While a once proud people now live in caves and are forced to fight against the mighty, who make rules but don't abide by them. What a shame, what a shame, what a pity. With the wave of a pen and elected leader in hand, yes, they boast and they toast of democracy not to be. Oh, warmongers, only fulfilling their war hunger, and they feel it makes them stronger. They messing up the world. These sets are warmongers, and they not making anything better. All they do is causing disasters, and they messing up with these sets of warmongers. They satisfying their war hunger. For one reason or another, they messing up the world. These set of warmongers only fulfilling their war hunger, and they feel it makes them stronger. They messing up the world. Selah, Selah, Selah. United only among themselves, there's an exclusion of small nations. Who only have a voice to say yes to their whims, their fancies, and their notions. While a once proud people now live in caves and are forced to fight against the mighty, who make rules but don't abide by them. What a shame, what a shame, what a pity. With the wave of a pen and elected leader in hand, yes, they boast and they toast of democracy not to be. Oh, warmongers, only fulfilling their war hunger, and they feel it makes them stronger. They messing up the world. These sets are warmongers, and they not making anything better. All they do is causing disasters, and they messing up the world. Selah, Selah, Selah. And these warmongers only fulfilling their war hunger, and they're not taking anything better. No, 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 they're messing up the world. These set of warmongers only satisfying their war hunger, and they're not making things better. They're messing up the world.
That kind of world, the voice of the Caribbean speaking to the world, making our plea. We have no control over war. We don't make war, that kind of war, but we speak our truth. Gypsy, warmongers, and before that, the singing Sandra, the war will go on. So long as greed and envy dwell in the hearts of man, the war will go on. We can only raise our voice, our Caribbean voice, to remind our own leaders of the dangers of global war. Good evening to you and welcome to Politics 101. It's Monday night, the beginning of the week. There is a linkage between the global war and the local war. We have been fighting a local and domestic war ever since the footprints of man have visited our Caribbean, our Guyana. And there has always been a linkage between the global war and the domestic war. Wherever you're joining us from, whether it's in Guyana or outside of Guyana, welcome. Tonight we ask the question, do we really understand the severity of the dangers that we face globally and locally? I'm linking tonight the global with the local. Because sometimes we make the mistake of seeing the global as isolated from the local, and the local isolated from the global. I'm hearing that there was shortage of gasoline at Guy Oil gas stations. And I'm hearing that the price of gasoline has gone up at all gas stations. The global has consequences for the local. Good evening to you and welcome to Politics 101. The war will go on. It cannot be won. And the question is, do we really understand? There is not much that we can do as small nations about the global imperative. We don't have the wherewithal, we don't have the influence, we don't have the big voice to affect what goes on at a global level. We are told that we have one of the fastest growing economies in the world. it should follow that we should have a voice in what's happening on the global stage. Well, we don't. We don't. What we can do is affect what's happening at a local level. Do we really understand? Do we really understand? As political activists, we are constantly looking at what's happening on the political stage and trying to make sense, trying to understand what's happening. As one peruses the local political landscape, it becomes obvious that we are in a bad way in Guyana. And it becomes even more frustrating because our leadership seems not to grasp what is happening. And our followership, meaning those of us who are not in leadership position, the ordinary folk, the salt of the earth, we are also consumed. Martin Carter said, all are involved, all are consumed. We are in a bad way in Guyana. Brother met me yesterday. Very thoughtful brother. I've known him for all my life. It's my grow match. He said, Dr. Hines, you know, Black people problem is economics. And I said, yes. Black people problem is economics. And I probed him to understand exactly what he was driving at. And it took me a little while, but it was basically saying that our problem is not political. Our problem is money. Money. And when I tried to explain to him the relationship between politics and economics, he kept pressing. He said, look, I heard that political thing in Kwame Apata's yard 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Dr. Hines, I'm one of your big supporters, but the problem with Black people is economic. The brother means well. And the brother has a point. The problem is that we are not linking what's happening. Look, it's been 34 years since political power has resided largely in the hands of one party and by extension one ethnic group and one social class, or mainly two ethnic groups in the country. Except for 5 years when the APNU held office. And I think we do not grasp the way in which the PPP has succeeded in shaping Guyana a certain way. That is, I don't think that we look beneath the surface. We understand what's happening on the surface. We understand that the PPP control the economy, they control the politics. We get that. But I don't think we get the consequences of that. So that when things are playing out before our very eyes, we are not able to link it to the master plan. Those of us who think about politics and study politics, politics is about who gets what, when, and how. Standard definition of politics. And whether one accepts it or not, in any country in the world at any point in history, it is the state and the government which determines who gets what, when, and how. And therefore, control of government and state has always been premium. There is no social class. There is no ethnic group in the history of mankind that has risen to economic heights without the intervention of the state, the government. One of the frustrating things about discourse, political discourse in Guyana, and you hear it from the leadership, you hear it from among the people, is that they think people can get rich on their own. The brother was telling me we have to change the way Black people think. And I am asking him, how do you do that? Yeah, man, Dr. Haynes. We have to change the way Black people, to think like who? And I think he was going to the point where Black people have to start thinking like Indians or start thinking like white people. And then I reminded him that the greatest economic revolution in the history of Guyana was the village movement, where a group of ex-enslaved people bought plenty land and turned those lands into villages that we can live in today. That there must be something about the method of accumulation that made that possible.
And that what we are hearing, that we need to, Africans need to abandon that method of accumulation and to adopt some other method of accumulation. You know, the brother and I had just come out of a funeral, and the pastor dealt with the question of accumulation and achievement. You know, she was saying that there seems to be this drive to accumulate but not to achieve. And I am, whenever I enter church, whatever the occasion, I always listen to sermons. And these days it's very difficult to get what I call deep sermons. But every now and again, and that reverend was making that point about accumulation and achievement. And I was pointing out to my friend, the brother, that some black people are getting $2 million, $3 million contract. They're accumulating some money. But are they achieving anything? I'm going back to the pastor now, who set me thinking. Do we really understand what is happening in our country? There are people who are allowed to accumulate wealth so that they can achieve control of the society, of the country. And there are those who are permitted, allowed to accumulate a $2, $3 million, $4 million without achieving any control even over their own little families or their little village. Do we really understand the plan? Last week, I said that we have to begin to think about revolution. We have to begin to think about uprooting the status quo and changing it. And you don't do that economically, you do that politically. So this thing that you can achieve, you can achieve. The reverend term, you can achieve security in your country without political struggle. It's a myth. And one of the things that the PPP has done is that it has been able to get into the minds of the ordinary, the masses of this country, and to convince them to some extent, some more than others, that you don't have to struggle politically to achieve economic empowerment. And that's the point I'm driving at tonight. And I think we find ourselves in a situation where even the political leaders don't know what to do. because they're fighting against what is fast becoming an entrenched attitude to life. And because they're not thinking about revolutionizing the society, they're not able to grapple with the intensity of the situation. You see, we are trapped. And the trap is that everything has been reduced to election. Election is a very important aspect of human development. Very important. But when you become trapped in the logic of election, it means that you shut out other forms of human advancement, other methods of achieving prosperity and economic empowerment. As soon as you finish one election, you hear people start talking already, 2020, 2030, 2031. Nobody's talking about 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029. You already hear we're talking about 2030 and 2031. And that is the trap that we have found ourselves in as a nation, and the trap that the PPP has set for us, and the trap that most of our leadership has fallen into. Now you have to plan for election. I am in total agreement with that, because election is the method of changing governments. But by our own arguments, those on the opposition side, the noble opposition, when your political parties held government from 2015 to 2020, they were not able to do much for you. Now, that is a problematic formulation, but it's a formulation that has taken root among APNU supporters. You see, the problem is not that the government didn't do anything for the supporters. The government did stuff that the supporters benefited from. But what did not occur was a grounding of what the government did within the context of a long-term economic empowerment for their supporters. I think that's what the supporters are saying. Economics cannot be divorced from politics. And when you're out of government, when your party is out of government, you are not able to bring tangible resources to your supporters. You can only do that when you're in government. When you're out of government, you have to rock the boat and push the system and change the system so that your people can benefit even when you are out of government. Everybody's talking about the opposition needs to unite to fight the PPP. One cannot argue against unity, but unity doesn't happen because we say it should happen. If you put people and organizations in a conflictual environment, they are going to engage in conflict. You cannot put them in a conflictual environment and expect them to love up. And it's so frustrating to hear opposition supporters on both sides, APNU side and WIN side, talking about why the opposition can't come together. But that's not what you all voted for. You all voted for a divided opposition. How many times people like myself have said that? I'm glad if tomorrow all opposition leaders can come together and form some barrage and decide to get down to real business and fight the PPP. Everyone, I would be glad for that. But I'm realistic to understand that that's not the environment we have before us. At the end of the day, the political leaders, whether they're from WIN, the APNU, or FGM, or any other political party in the opposition side, none of them has shown a capacity to confront this government in a revolutionary way. None of them. So it's not whether they're united or they're divided. It is whether their politics are oriented towards carrying blows to the PPP. I'm sorry. Neither WIN nor the APNU, and I'm part of the APNU, so I'm taking responsibility. Neither of those two political entities has, in the last 6 months, shown a capacity, a willingness to carry blows to the PPP. Full stop. Those who went from APNU to WIN expect WIN to do what the APNU didn't do. And the question is, has WIN done that? You see, there's a way in which we are carrying the bar very low to accommodate our electoral choices. I'm sorry to laugh because this is not a laughing matter. You see, we make electoral choices. And then we have to defend our electoral choice, whether we chose APNU, or we chose WIN, or we chose one of the smaller parties, as they call them, is that we made electoral choices. And now we have to defend our electoral choice, or we feel that we have to. So in order to justify that our party is doing the job, we lower the standard. We can talk about corruption as we must. We can expose corruption as we must. But having exposed the corruption, what next? And that's my question to APNU, that's my question to WIN. What next? In politics, you have to be prepared to take chances. Are they planning an anti-corruption mega march? Putting thousands of people on the streets to register their protest against this corruption that is exposed? We are talking politics tonight. Real politics. Having exposed, and both APNU and WIN are exposing corruption. WIN may have a bigger megaphone, but the APNU is exposing corruption too. The problem is, having exposed this corruption, what next? When are you all taking your supporters to the road to use their bodies to say no more corruption? I am saying that we have to move to the next level. I hear people who are saying, well, you arguing over who's suing who and who didn't sue who, and why you all suing one another when people jumping through the hospital and people, suffering. And I hear all of that argument. My point is, what are we doing beyond reminding us that we shouldn't engage in lawsuit? We should engage in struggle. But where is the struggle? Where is the struggle? That is the question I'm raising tonight to all the opposition leaders and supporters who have lowered the bar so that the height of struggle now is to expose corruption. That can't be the height of struggle. That is the beginning of struggle. You expose the corruption and then you do something about it. And that's where our conversation needs to be, and that's where our conversation is not. And if we are serious political people, we have to confront that question. the PPP has succeeded in making the society numb to lawlessness, numb to skullduggery, numb to bad governance. And they're watching us as we dither. Sisters and brothers, our society is in crisis. We know that. It's been in crisis for the last 30 odd years. It has reached the point it has in the last decade with the coming of oil and oil wealth to the country. And the PPP has bought our silence, has bought our inaction. We can call for WIN and APNU to unite and sit down around a table. But if when they get up from the table, they're not talking business, they're not talking action, they're not talking revolutionary political action, then they're wasting their time. You see, if people change their preference, you change your preference because you expect that those who you are now entrusting with your trust via your vote, that they will do different or better than the other side. And I asked that question. You see, it's easy to say North must go. I heard so many sensible people into that kind of thing. And look, you know, if political leaders are not doing well, you have a right to call for them to go. And so my question is not whether you are all correct in saying North must go. That is not my question. My question is, what are you doing? What are we doing differently from what Norton has done? You see, the logic of our politics takes us in a certain place. And I don't want to get into some of it tonight. It's no accident that we are quarreling over who took Jack Dio money and who didn't take the PPP money and who didn't give the PPP money. It's not an accident. The problem is that we are ignoring where that logic takes us or does not take us. I'm saying I am not surprised that WIN and APNU are fighting one another. I am not surprised, and anybody who understands politics should not be surprised. You don't divide on Monday in order to unite on Tuesday. It don't happen, so. It don't happen, so. The last time the opposition dethroned the PPP, they unite before the election. In 2015, AFC unite with APNU. Well, APNU was already PNC, WPA, GAP. It's yesterday history. The last time we effectively bulldozed the PPP is when we unite before. In 2025, we went in divided. But we expect to get the result of 2015 when we went in united. Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh. It took me to explain that. If you run away from the PNC and say the PNC leadership is no good and you farm your own thing and you went into the election, you went into the election as enemies. Oh my God. Oh, after the election, you expect that, are you going to come friend right away? And I think our people are falling for this nonsense. As I said, I would be glad if Win and APNU and Amanza and Nigel Hughes and everybody can sit down around a table and say, all right, we done war, we now fighting the PPP. And they get up from that table and say, we can mobilize 25,000 people and put them on the road. Then you're talking business. And you must ask yourself why that has not happened. If people so want unity, let me sit down around a table and say we're going to fight the PPP. And we're going to fight the PPP where it's most vulnerable. Because the PPP has a right to say, where, Dr. Hines, what are you talking about? Everywhere the faces of men are strained and anxious. Show me the strained and anxious. Show me the strained and anxious. If we could put 25,000 people, 20,000 people on the road, the PPP cannot deny that the people's faces are strained and anxious. If people's faces are strained and anxious in the house, they can say, well, no, people's faces are not strained and anxious. So this thing about, you know, I want to be very careful because I don't want people to misunderstand me. I don't want people to misunderstand me. The problem is not all these things that are happening. We see these things we see people's homes are being bulldozed. We know the frustrations of our people. We see it every day. But what are we doing about it in a tangible way? In getting these people whose faces are strained and anxious to come on the road and say, here I am, saying enough is enough. They're not talking about that. Listen, people have said all kinds of craziness about me. Many times I came to the brink of filing lawsuits and I pulled back. Lawsuits are meant as a deterrence from people saying crazy things about other people. Lies, political lies. And I am trying to understand how we are now taking away the right of deterrence from people saying crazy things and about other people in the political sphere. I want to be careful, you know. I want to be careful. And I'm trying to understand what are we really saying? What are we really saying? But no, PPP people can say what they want about the rest of us. And we should not move to the courts to stop them from saying it, because what? I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to make sense of the whole thing. I'm trying to make sense of it. And I'm not fully understand what is being said. But you see, the logic of our politics takes us there. If we are busy mobilizing 20,000 people to go on the street, we don't have time to talk about who take who money and who give who money and who this. In a sense, we have become politically idle. And political idleness takes us to a place where we talk idleness. And then we get to the point where we now gotta fight one another. And we say, well, why are we fighting? We're fighting because we're idle. On both sides, on all sides. And unfortunately, our people have become intoxicated with the idleness on social media. The idleness. It's the idleness that takes us to the point we're not now going to sue somebody. If we are serious, we would be doing serious work. But we have gotten into this social media idleness. And some of the conventional media, under, I don't know what is it, whether they want to sell news or political preference, they've normalized some of that political idleness. If David Hines say we have to revolutionize the system, we have to get up and confront it, they're not going to carry it. But somebody talks some idleness on social media, they carry it. And then you're surprised that we end up to the point where people say they're going to sue Matty. We have normalized political idleness. I'm tired of it. No, look, I don't want to defend Norton. He can defend himself. But all of a sudden, we want to take away the right for somebody to say, I'm going to use the court to stop you from impugning my personal character. Freddie Kissoon just say, give my comrade explosive. And Takumo Ogunse had to threaten to sue him and threaten to sue the Chronicle if the Chronicle did not carry his letter. And you know what? The Chronicle carries his letter. Why are we trying to take away the threat? Take away the right to use the threat of a suit to stop people from saying recklessness against one another. Chronicle carried Ogunse letter. Chronicle would never carry anything from Ogunse. But because Ogunse threatened to sue, Chronicle carried the letter to avoid a lawsuit. My point is that political idleness. People on social media talking all sorts of foolishness day in, day out. And they get likes, and our people like the entertainment, and that has become now the substitute for serious politics. And then when it gets to the point where it gets, we now crucifying people. I can't impose my politics on people. There's a reason you all don't see me on Facebook posting, but anything post under my name on Facebook is serious politics. I don't have time to be writing foolishness on Facebook every 2 minutes and cussing up Matthew on Facebook. If I cussing and abusing on politics and abusing on seriousness, I can't impose that on other people. But you can't want to engage in idle politics and idleness. And then when you get the consequence of your idleness, everybody now passing judgment. I wouldn't sue another opposition leader But I doubt whether another opposition leader is likely to say terrible things about me, because I'm not in that business. I'm not in the business of jumping on social media every minute and condemning Matty and so on. The PPP are going to say terrible things about me. And I may sue a PPP leader if they said very, very terrible things. But I'm not going to sue another opposition leader, largely because the chances of another opposition leader saying lies about me is very slim, because I'm not in that business of idleness. I'm not into that idleness. So I don't have to worry about suing Memati, opposition leader, because I'm not in the idle politics. And that's the point I'm making here tonight. You play with the pup, you get bitten by the flea. You go crab dance, your skin must get mud. And we have to stop this idle social media kind of thing that passes for serious politics. I don't like it. I don't engage in it. And it's becoming an obstruction to real serious politics. Yes, it's a waste of our people's time for Win and AP and you to be sparring every 2 minutes and cussing Matty and criticizing Matty. You know, when you're fighting a government, opposition solidarity, a government like the PPP, opposition solidarity is important. The question I'm asking is, how do you all expect us to have opposition solidarity in the environment in which Win and APNU are engaged, that idle kind of thing? And if you, it's normal if people knock you, but knock them back. And if we are satisfied as a nation with this knock you and knock back politics on the opposition side, then we reap what we sow. We reap what we sow. And it's on both sides, the level of the leadership that engages in that idle politics, but it's also the level of our followers who seem to like that entertainment. A couple of the young people, you know, not many, at times when you think about this wheelbarrowed money, and I say, it's entertainment. It's entertainment. And we get caught up in the entertainment. And that's all right. You gotta get a good laugh. But when the entertainment become the substitute for politics, that is where we going wrong. You know, the entertainment. But entertainment has now become fast becoming the substitute for serious politics. Thank God not too many people ask me about the wheelbarrow money. I think people at a certain level understand when you're into certain things, when you're not into certain things. But a couple of people ask me, I say, yeah, all right. It's entertainment. But when it becomes the substitute for serious politics, is when we start to code disaster. And that is what is happening. I'm APNU. And me fight is not with Win. Me fight is with the PPP. Because Win doesn't hold the keys to government, contrary to what some of our supporters felt, that when Win get into government or get into the lead opposition, that they're going to tear up the country and change up the... It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. And there are reasons why it hasn't happened. So my Win is not me fight. My fight is with the PPP. And our fight has to be with the PPP. It's the PPP that's spending Australian dollars. $1.53 trillion. So I'm not into that kind of fighting opposition, fighting one another, but I understand why it is happening. I've said over and over this program, decisions, when we make political decisions, they have consequences. I couldn't tell people how they must vote. I would have hoped that people would have voted for the coalition that I am a part of. That didn't happen. People split their votes, mainly African Guyanese and Amerindians. They give some to APNU, they give some to Win. I don't think they were saying, well, we're going to divide the opposition. It turns out that what was created is a divided opposition. People take a chance. They believe that we could have had what they call a minority government. That is, the PPP would have been brought down to less than 50%, and they would have been a minority. It didn't happen. Whether the PPP rigged or they didn't rig, it didn't happen. And mature political people needed to pivot if the plan didn't work out that you were planning. Unfortunately, it is difficult to pivot. The political leaders on both sides of the opposition find it difficult to pivot. And we are not asking them the hard questions. We are lowering the bar. We are lowering the bar. We are making excuses. And we are blaming one another. Win people blaming APNU, APNU people blaming Win. And what else you expect? What else you expect? In the meantime, the master plan is being put in place. We are normalizing political idleness. We are normalizing political idleness. And if we don't stop it, we're going to pay dearly, because the 2030 that we're looking forward to, when it comes, we wouldn't be able to recognize the Guyana that we know. We won't be able to recognize it. Every time we turn our gaze to political idleness, the PPP is entrenching itself. see, it's not. I hear one of the criticism, oh, we find time to sue, but we don't find people homes are being bulldozed, and we find time. It's not people homes are being bulldozed. Black people homes are being bulldozed. They're not saying that. The political idleness prevents us from talking the truth. So yes, not suing when people homes are being bulldozed. People home. Say black people homes are being bulldozed. When you say that, then we know you're serious and you're talking the truth and you're ready to fight. It's not that Fort Moran people's homes are being bulldozed. It's not that Enmore. It's not that Bath Settlement. It's Moko and No Friendship is where mostly black people are. Yeah, they get one Indian and Amerindian families and so on. But the political idleness prevents us from confronting the real politics. And we expect to get the PPP out. The PPP has to know that they're engaged in racism, institutional racism. They're not just going wrong to all communities and bulldozing homes. They're selected communities. That's where the homes are bulldozed. And unless we are prepared to talk the truth, we are joking. On both sides. On all sides of the opposition. Every now and again you hear APNU people will say African Guyanese homes are bulldozed. Every now and again, one or two brave ones are saying it. But not from Win. You're not hearing nothing from Win about African Guyanese troubles and struggles. They will talk about Amerindian trouble and struggles, all of them, APNU, WIN, all of them will very quickly, the indigenous people. But when it comes to African people, Sandans. That's serious. That's serious. As I said, give APNU some kudos. You hear APNU leaders every now and again, when the spirit gets in them and when it's too much, they would say African Guyanese communities. Political idleness on social media has to stop. Well, not stop, because you can't stop it. But we have to stop substituting it, making it the substitute for real politics. That's what has to stop. That's what has to stop. You're never going to stop people from engaging in that kind of thing on social media. Unfortunately, it has become nice entertainment for people and so on. But we cannot make that. That cannot become the politics. I hope I said enough tonight, and some people can misrepresent what I said. Because they listen for a whole hour and they take out 1 minute It's just taking us nowhere. It's just taking us nowhere. You're not going to get any opposition collaboration in that kind of environment. And opposition mustn't collaborate just for the sake of collaborate. As I said, you have the 2015 model where all we went in together, despite our differences. And then you have the 2025 model where all we went in separate. Black people had to choose between APNU, WIN, FGM, AFC, ALP. Any more? Any more? I might be missing one. The hope was that East Indians would have had to choose between WIN and PPP. As it turned out, there was no choice. Indian people chose the PPP. But Black people divide themselves in 5. One hand. The other side, one finger. One hand versus one finger. In 2015, we went in together. In 2025, we went in separate. You can't go in separate and expect the outcome as if you're going together. We come in peace. Sometimes, these things, I would rather not having to deal with these things. But, we have to talk to our people, because I hear people on the ground get caught up with the entertainment. And the entertainment becomes the politics. And while we entertaining ourselves, the other side is engaging in seriousness, serious politics, bad politics, wicked politics, but they're serious about it.